So this is probably the last rhinoplasty video we're going to do until about 1 year post-op. But I was looking through some old vlog footage from immediately after we had the nose jobs, and it made me realise how far I've actually come, because I'm gonna say it, like, I really disliked my nose straight after surgery. I might even say that I hated it. For those of you who have watched our previous rhinoplasty content, we've done a vlog, we've done a story time, we've done some other bits and bobs. You'll know that me and Laur went to Istanbul in Turkey back in March, and we had septorhinoplasties. And out of the both of us, I would say that I struggled more with the immediate aftermath than you did, definitely. But you're in this video anyway because we always do videos together, and Laur can kind of like interview me about how I was feeling at the time. And there were a few things for me as well that were more like insecurities and things that I didn't really like, but it wasn't the same as you where like we're in a bad place with it at the start. Yeah, so we just thought we would make this video to help anyone who's just had a nose job and might be struggling, because you'd better believe that right at the beginning after my nose job I was on YouTube searching for these kinds of videos and I didn't find a lot of them. No, and that's kind of scary as well, because you feel like you're going to be stuck in that place forever. Yeah. It's really difficult to know that as we are now 6 months down the line, it's become such a normal part of life that like I don't even think about my nose anymore. But when you're in that moment, you feel like, oh god, it's going to be like this forever. It feels like a massive decision, and it feels like everybody's staring at your face, and it's just a lot as well, because like people will know that you've had the surgery. But this video, I'm actually going to include some of the footage of content that I filmed a week after cast off, which is very raw footage. Like it's very ugly. Obviously I would say that, but immediately after surgery it's not going to look great. And I was never planning on sharing it anywhere. I just had it for my records so that I could film it and then watch it back and see if my face looked different to how it looked in the mirror, because it didn't look great in the mirror. Yeah, the purpose was more like a video log in a way, where it was like you just wanted to be able to see what was happening. But now looking back on those videos, you realise how helpful it would be if there was just honest footage out there of how someone was feeling in that time. Exactly. That could help someone else. Yeah, so we're going to take you back first to March, and we'll quickly talk through our surgery and our experience, and then I'll go in with sharing some of these videos so that you can see how I was feeling. You can kind of get a visual for the way that I was feeling at the time and the way that I was looking. So back in March time, we went to Turkey, we had a nose jobs. It's something we wanted for ages, and I think we weren't the easiest of cases because we were having a septorhinoplasty. So that's when they have to like straighten your nose as well, and we'll pop in some pictures of what our noses looked like before. So they were quite big, and we were told that we had thick skin. So mine was thick, yours was very thick. Yep. So with that in mind, we knew that we weren't going to end up with tiny little Barbie noses immediately afterwards. Yeah. In terms of how we were feeling at that time though, I had already done some research, and because we're on this Facebook group, which I'll link below because it's really useful, but there was a few people on there that I'd seen said, oh, it takes a while to get used to your new nose. And some people were saying, oh, I didn't really like it to start with. But in that time, I was just thinking, I hate the nose that I have now. Anything, literally any nose, will be better than the nose that I have now. And I couldn't possibly imagine the case of not liking it. Yeah, unless you went to someone that did like a really botched job, but obviously that's why people do the research beforehand. And I think that's the best mindset to go in with, because if you kind of already like your nose but you want to do some small tweaks to make it better, then I think there's more chance of you disliking it afterwards, especially like a long-term result. So for me and you, we felt quite confident going into it, and I think we even said to each other, like, how could anyone hate the noses afterwards? Like, that could never be us. But reality hits you when you wake up and you got the cast on, because it's a scary experience. You just don't look normal. Again, we'll put some pictures in. Immediately when you wake up, you have swelling, you don't look like yourself, which doesn't help with the fact that you've got a new nose, because it's hard to picture this new nose on a face that already doesn't look like yours. Yeah, I mean, I think the weirdest thing, if we skip ahead just a little bit, the weirdest thing was cast off day. Like, actually, the more time that goes on, the weirder that looks to me. Like, when I look back at that footage, it's just bizarre, like how we were supposed to fake that we liked what we saw in the mirror. Yeah. Because it's just, it doesn't look right at all. That is crazy. Oh no. I mean, to be honest, we can now skip to cast off because within that week, you're not going to look normal. And it was quite scary looking in the mirror, but we also knew within that week that we weren't going to look normal. And I feel like the expectation kind of builds for cast off day because you might hear a lot of people saying, I didn't like my nose on cast off. But from the vlogs that I'd seen on YouTube, I'd been pleasantly surprised with all of the noses that I'd seen on cast off day.
And I'd seen people crying because they were so happy with how the noses looked, and it was like a really emotional moment. And I actually thought that that would be the case for us.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems with a lot of the vlogs that we watched. These girls were like influencers, Instagram models. They already started with a small nose and they probably just had like minor surgery to get a bump removed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite as invasive as ours, where we basically like changed the entire structure of our nose. We did even say, if you watch our vlog, you can see in cast off day, we did say that we were going into it expecting the worst because you can get a glimpse of your nose under the cast and it was very high.
It was just very Grinch-like at the beginning, like that's the best way to describe it.
So cast off happened, and after that we had been wearing face masks for like the whole week to hide our faces because we just look, I've said it already, we look weird. But immediately afterwards, I still wanted to wear my cast on my nose because I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so obvious that I've had surgery. Like that was a thought that was going around in my head because my nose was so high. And obviously I was very happy with, from the side, it looked really cute. But from the front, that was the issue that I had because it's very Piggy.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we had tape over our noses, like the cast was gone but we got tape on, and I feel like I must have entered some like delusion because I was loving, like when we went home and I was on the train in London, I kind of wanted everyone to see that like I'd had my nose done because this shows like the different mindsets that we had. I was already like really happy with the way that mine looked in comparison to the way that it looked before, so I almost wanted to show off the fact that I'd had a nose job, like I was just in this like delusional state, whereas you were like, you just wanted to hide.
Yeah, I mean, like getting the train home was an experience because obviously on the plane flying home from Turkey, there's multiple people that have had surgery, so it doesn't feel that bad. But then we then split off to get our separate trains, and yeah, getting the tube through London immediately after, immediately after cast off, not only does your nose look weird, but it's also really sensitive. So like being in the cramped tube was not ideal because you're so scared of it being knocked or whatever.
Yeah, I spoke to someone actually who has had a nose job and she's been pregnant, and she said it's quite similar feelings where you feel like very protective. And obviously when you're pregnant it's like the baby bump.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can imagine that, yeah. And I think for me, I think the main thing is that when we got back, I didn't anticipate the recovery from that stage to take so long in terms of like appearance. Because this is mostly just a video about appearance, we won't go too much into how it felt and stuff like that. You can see a lot of that in our previous videos. Appearance wise, it took probably about 2 months until it felt normal, and I would say about 1 month until I was prepared to leave the house and go to social events. And I think this is something that just does not get talked about enough, because if you don't have the courage to go out and just own the fact that you've had a nose job, especially if you've not told a lot of people that you're having a nose job, then it puts you in a really sticky situation.
That's what makes it awkward, because if you'd gone away and said to everyone, when I come back I'm going to have a different nose, then you would have felt like you could have showed up and looked different without feeling embarrassed or like you needed to hide something.
Yeah.
But you had the perception that you were going to go out there, secretly get it done, and it wouldn't look that different. It would just be a bit shorter.
Because we said to each other before, we were like, no one's going to notice anyway. Like, it's main character syndrome. Like, no one else even looks at our noses. No one else is even going to care. And then after surgery, it was kind of like, okay, it's actually quite obvious. Yeah, like, this is a big change.
So let's talk about the things that you specifically noticed in your nose that you didn't like at the start.
So for me, it wasn't just about like a size reduction, because I think if I'd have had the cast off and it would have been small but looking fairly normal, and I think my only fear would have been like, oh god, people are going to know that I've had surgery. But I didn't want people to look at it and think she's had surgery and it's botched, and it felt like a botched vibe at first just because of like the swelling and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that is something that's important to bring up as well, because at the beginning, like, you do feel quite emotional about this change, And I think you were concerned, like, what if this is botched? Like, what
Everyone has that fear,
yeah, like, even though our surgeon has, like, a really good track record,
if we'd have gone to the UK, it would have been the same. Like,
you can't help thinking, like, what if I am the anomaly, and what if my nose is the botched job?
Yeah, so that's obviously, like, running through your head as well.
I just wanted to pause the video for a moment and share these messages with you guys, because these messages are so real and raw, and they show, honestly, like, exactly how I was feeling after the surgery and for quite a long time afterwards. So the first set of messages on the left, that was from immediately after surgery, which honestly just takes me back to such a crazy time reading these messages. It was Piggy. It was very high from after surgery, and immediately I was just like, this is going to take some adjusting. And then the messages that you can see following the first set of messages were from a little bit later on into my recovery. So you can see me commenting on my cast off nose and how I'd never seen another nose like mine. All the vlogs and, you know, like countless images that I'd seen online, mine just looked completely different from any other cast off nose that I'd seen. And then you can see these final messages was probably a few more weeks down the line, me just completely freaking out again. I completely forgot that I used to feel like a Disney dog, which is like a very specific analogy. I don't know if it was Goofy, because I feel like Goofy has quite an upturned nose, but I actually felt like a Disney character for a bit. So yeah, I just want to share these messages, because then you guys can see for yourself that the freak out was real, and I'm not dramatizing anything that I felt at the time. And yeah, I'm just so glad that I don't feel this way anymore.
So for me, it was the pigginess. It was very, very high, and it was kind of like there was one part that stuck up more than the other, like it was to an angle. It still is, but now it's not swollen. You can't tell, like it's completely fine now. And there was a line as well that separated the line, honestly, like that line, it was all I ever went on with at first. It separated the tip of my nose from my nose. So like this part of my nose was very small and cute, and then there was a line, and then the tip was like huge. So I think now is a good time to share some of this footage, and then you can see what it was that I was talking about. Okay, I have just sneezed, so my nose might be looking a little bit red, but I just want to record myself on the vlog to see if I look as weird on here as I feel like I look in mirrors and on my phone. Yeah, I'm still just like trying to adjust to my nose, and it's definitely a process. So let's bring the camera a little bit closer. Honestly, like, I don't think it's looking that bad. I'll have a look when I watch the footage back. But yeah, I don't know, I just feel so weird at the minute. Like, yeah, I don't know, I feel like really scared to go back to like seeing people that I know, like seeing people that knew me with my other nose, because I don't want them to think that I've been botched. And I don't know, I just feel like at the minute, like my nose is so small on my face and it looks so high as well. Let's do some side shots. I don't know, let's have a look. So here's my nose for one final time with my hair tied up. I feel like this is the only time that I don't think it looks weird, is when I've got my hair tied up, but it's not realistic. At the end of the day, I can't just tie my hair up for the rest of my life. TV smile is still a bit like, it just doesn't really look right. Here I am in the mirror.
So as you can see from Em's videos, you can clearly see that line that was there. I don't know if I have any footage because I lost a lot of my footage that I'd done at the start, but I didn't have the weird line. My face just looked a lot more normal. And I think it is probably because I've got thicker skin. So I had more even swelling all over my nose. So for me, at the very beginning, I only had two like small concerns, and one of them was swelling, because I remember I posted a picture on the nose job group that we're in on Facebook, and it was like a side shot. It was like a before and after side shot. And someone commented saying something like, oh, no offense, but I wouldn't really be happy with this because the doctor hasn't made your nose any smaller.
Bear in mind this was like 2 months post-op or something like that.
Yeah, it was less than that. I think it was a 4-week update. So it was like very insensitive to say that.
I would say as well, those people in that group, you have to take what some of them say with a pinch of salt, because a lot of people are on there because they've had countless revisions and countless botched surgeries, and they just don't want anyone else to be happy.
Yeah, there's a lot of medical experts on there. But anyway, that comment kind of stuck in my head because I was thinking like, is this swelling? Is it going to go down? And then the other thing for me is that, and I'm sure I've got a picture that I can put on the screen, it was at an angle. So again, I was like, is this a botch job? Like, am I going to have a nose that's slanted for life? Because you do see the horror stories of people whose one nostril has collapsed and the nose is like pointing that way. And so from underneath, you could definitely see that it was at an angle. But to skip to now, basically, it's completely fine. Like, I'll take another picture and it's completely straight now. In terms of the swelling, I think it's still swollen. Like, we'll do a year update, and see if that changes. But I do think it's still swollen, so it hasn't decreased in size. But whatever that girl said, I don't care because it still looks so much better.
It's a massive improvement to what it was before,
Exactly.
Which is the whole reason for getting the nose job. But something else that I actually forgot to mention about what I was insecure about at the beginning, that you will have definitely noticed in the video, is that when you talk, your top lip doesn't move and your face looks frozen. So it also looks like you've had this really intense Botox. This is something that I was so paranoid about because it took a couple of months for this area to start moving again. So like, I'd be talking on work calls and I would just be like staring at my face and just staring at the fact that this lip just wasn't moving. And like, if you ever needed to smile on a call, it would be like,
the smile was the worst part. That is actually something that I was insecure about as well to start with.
And even if you go back and watch, for example, our rhinoplasty vlog, we have some footage that we included right at the end where I think we're a couple of weeks post-op. If you skip to the end of the vlog and watch that footage, you can see when we're talking, we're trying not to smile and we kind of look like mannequins because like the smile was just, it didn't look good. And like pretty much all the videos we filmed after that were like really far back. So if you've recently had a rhinoplasty that you're hating or freaking out about, then you're probably wondering when it was that I started to feel better about things. And I would say it was probably about the 2-month mark where I stopped overanalyzing my nose every day. And when you stop overanalyzing it, you don't kind of go by weeks or months anymore, so you kind of stop waking up and thinking, oh, I'm X amount of months post-op. So I would say it was around the 2-month mark where I wouldn't say I was fully happy with my nose, but the weird smile thing had gone and I felt normal to be out in public, and I felt like it wasn't super obvious at that point anymore that I'd had surgery. So at that point is when I felt more comfortable, and now that we're 6 months, like, I am completely fine. Like, at this point I'm now happy with my nose. So I do hope that that gives you some reassurance that if you are currently feeling like you hate your nose or you've got concerns about it being botched, I hope you realise that you can go from having those feelings to feeling completely happy with your nose.
Yeah, and I'd say that like there's probably a much higher chance of this just being a phase and it's just a stage of recovery that is a little bit weird. There's way more chance of that than it actually being a botch job.
Yeah, 100%. So now I might just get up close to the camera and just show my nose now so that you can compare it to the footage that I put in a little bit earlier. So as you can see now, it's looking so much better than before. And all the things that I was obsessing about before, I mean, in terms of the nose now and the smile, like, so much happy with it. Here's how it is from the side. So as you can see, there is still some swelling on the tip, but that's not a problem to me at all. It doesn't look weird and nobody would know. So here's the other side as well. And then I guess you can just show off yours as well, even though you didn't have any earlier footage. So this is from the front, and then from this side, and from this side. So we hope you guys found this video helpful, and I hope that it's kind of put your mind at ease a little bit. Feel free to kind of share your nose job stories in the comments as well. If you have gone through a rhinoplasty, or if you're just in the beginning stages and you're doing what I did and just searching through YouTube to try and find people who had a similar experience to you. If you're interested in learning more about nose jobs, we have so many more videos that we can link down below. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in our next video.
Now I realize it was always supposed to be.